everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad and welcome to a Cloak and Dagger Christmas video that I've been really wanting to do. So what I'm doing today is I'm going through some of my absolute favourite lady detectives. What I love is when I get to read a historical fiction or a cozy crime that has a female lead, because it's so interesting to see the different dynamics that comes from having a male and female detective. It's a little bit different for modern detectives, especially a police procedural, as most of the detecting is still quite similar. However, going back into previous lady detectives when they officially weren't employed as a detective, they were given very different roles and could go into very different circles in society. So today I thought I would divide it up into three different categories. First, starting out with ladies who claim and consider themselves to be detectives or law enforcement or some way crime fighters. The next is going to be lady detectives who do it in the wake of another pursuit. And then finally is going to be lady detectives in training, or lady detectives who are doing it either through schooling methods or because they just have highly curious young women. Starting off, I have to start with one of the pinnacle of lady detectives, and that is Phryne Fisher by Kerry Greenwood. The Phryne Fisher murder mystery series is set in the 1920s, and Phryne is an incredibly independent, wealthy woman living in Melbourne, and she starts to investigate all these murders that are happening in the late 20s going, I think it's in the early 30s or not quite yet. But she is an absolute wonderful character. She's highly independent, incredibly modern for the time, but she's really, really fascinating as she brings a great humanity and influences the inspectors in Melbourne Police. I really, really love this series. I'm not all the way through yet. I'm going through it slowly, just a little bits at a time, but it is a wonderful cozy series that I highly recommend, and especially recommend the TV show. Next we have Constance Kopp from, well, the Kopp Sisters series. The first one's called Girl Waits with a Gun. This is Lady Kopp Makes Trouble, and Constance is an amazing character. She's actually based off one of the first female sheriffs in, I think, New Jersey in the US. So she's really fascinating. So she actually has a position in law enforcement, but of course her field varies greatly. Being a lady sheriff or working for the sheriff, she really just gets relegated to the female task, but she is very, very interested in catching criminals and things like that because she wants to be on the same footing as the men. And there's a lot of self-doubt that comes into Constance, and I find she's a very human and approachable character. She's not this great influential, like Phryne in a way has this elegance that you always aspire to, where Constance feels very close to heart. She is a really, really interesting character, but I loved her sisters. The interaction with her sisters is brilliant, and I just really adore them. I think there should have been a little bit more of the Kopp sisters in this book, but it was a really good read otherwise, and she is such a fantastic detective. So next is Robin Ellicourt from the Cormoran Strike series. So yes, Cormoran Strike is the main detective lead in which you follow in books 1, 2 and 3 and 4, which has just come out. But Robin in her own right becomes a really fascinating female character, and she becomes a really fascinating female detective. She really aspires to become a detective. I'm not giving too much away because she enters the job as a temp, but she really aspires to do some detecting work, which she does very early on in the series. So she is a fantastic modern female detective. She's not in the policing line, but she is amazing the way she can really play and different perspectives she brings to cases. So I really love Robin and Cormoran's dynamic. I think they just bring so many different variations to the investigation, but she in herself is a really inspirational female detective. So you might notice that none of the classic lady detectives like Miss Marple is on my list. I haven't read much from Miss Marple, so I really don't think I could comment, but these ones I have read and I have loved. My next category is lady detectives who become a detective almost through the pursuit of another career or another hobby as such, and the first one is absolutely going to be Amelia Peabody by Elizabeth Peters. This is the first in the series called The Crocodile on the Sandbank. It is so much fun. Amelia is such an outrageous character. She's set in the late Victorian period, so you have this really outrageous setting, but she is a really independent, strong and willful woman who loves archaeology and is a whiz with languages, and she's just fantastic. She is just one of those great women that you just really aspire to be like, or you just want to meet and have a really good chat. Although I think with Amelia, she'd probably tell you, she'd probably find if you're too silly, she'll probably find you exhausting. But she's so much fun, and she actually becomes a bit more enamored with the crime culture, and she's always imagining some daring do's or devious underhand takings. And of course her long-suffering husband Emerson always has to put up with this, but he's just as curious into what happens in different crimes. But of course they're not detectives, they're archaeologists. Next is An Only to Deceive. This is by Tasha Alexander. I really love this series because the main character, Lady Emily, is such an intelligent, smart, resourceful woman, and she really wants to study languages. She studies ancient languages. She's a scholar, but in this book, in the first one, she's trying to discover what happened with her husband's murder. It's believed he died of natural causes in Africa, but she starts to begin to doubt otherwise. So it's a really, really good opening to a series. I haven't read the second one yet. I'm sure it is going to be excellent, because the way this book was such a well-rounded narrative, it just gives me so much to look forward to in the rest of the series. But she is a scholar, so really all this crime detection would happen around her scholarly work. Next is going to be, of course, Her Royal Spinner series by Rhys Bowen. This is actually ridiculous amounts of fun. I really, really enjoy Georgie's series. I got a bit bogged down after number 3, and number 4 was a bit boggy too, but by 5 and 6, which I'm reading number 6 at the moment with Kate Howe, and it's just so much fun. It is just so much fun. I thoroughly enjoy Georgie. She's ridiculous, she's clumsy, she's working as a spy, quote unquote spy, for the Queen at the time in the 1920s, and she doesn't do a fabulous job, but lots of murders start to happen around her, and she's always a bit interested in finding out what happened. So she's a really fascinating, hilarious character to read about, and all her antics that she gets up to is really good fun. Staying in the 1920s, and that's going to be Death at Wentwater Court by Carola Dunn. This is following Daisy Dalrymple, who is in fact a writer or journalist for Town and Home, or Home and Country. She's a journalist, she's a writer, so she gets invited to go to all these great estates and travel around England to write about different estate houses for an American magazine where all the Americans are interested in this English culture and history. But along the way, lots of devious, dark things happen, and she calls in her very good friend Alec Fletcher, who is a police inspector. I really love Daisy's character. Like, I was reading Daisy and Georgie at the same time, and I think I just connect more to Daisy. Georgie is always a good laugh and a good fun time to have around, but Daisy's character I think I just connect so much more with, and she's such a lovely person. There is a really great progression in the Daisy Dalrymple series where Georgie seems to be very much set in the early 1920s, and a lot seems to happen within 1 year. This has a really natural flow to it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed the series. So the last 3 is going to be my young, or rather curious, lady detectives in training as such. These are young women who are working their way up to be very curious and interesting women of the world in whatever pursuits they're pursuing, but they also manage to do a bit of detecting along the way. And first one is absolutely going to be one of Gail Carriger's series. This is Etiquette and Espionage. It is so much fun. It is basically training women in the 1840s how to be spies, and of course they have to be spies within the realm of the female sensibilities, so all this devious, underhanded work that's happening behind the female scene. It is so much fun. I love this series. There's 4 books. The 3rd book blew me away. The first 2 are really good, introducing the world, introducing the characters and conflicts, but the 3rd and 4th book, amazing. Really, really great end to the series. You follow Sophronia, which is a heck of a name, and she is always a precocious and adventurous child, and she gets invited to go to a very special school, and she soon finds out instead of being a regular boring ladies finishing school, it is in fact Mademoiselle Geraldine's finishing school for young ladies of quality, and that means espionage and other rather devious things. So it is a lot of good fun, and Sophronia makes a fantastic fantastic detective in finding out all this intrigue and things that are going on, not only around the school, but in the local area as well. Of course, I have to mention Flavia de Luce. This is Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, book 1 in the Flavia de Luce series by Alan Bradley. Flavia is a really precocious 11-year-old. She is incredibly intelligent. She studies chemistry, so that's her main pursuit. She wishes to be a scientist or a chemist, and she is just adorably hilarious. Her view on life is really good fun, and I thoroughly enjoy reading her stories, although I have to admit it really is balanced well, because you actually get to see moments where she's trying to act a lot older than she is, and it kind of falls back on her, and she has to have that comfort of an adult or an older sister. So I really like how her childhood is still maintained within the character, even though she's constantly striving to be older than she really is. So lastly, a really fun standalone and a YA book is Newt's Emerald by Garth Nix. What makes this so much fun is that it's set in the Regency era, so early 1800s, and it follows Lady Truthful as she is on the cusp of her coming out season, but at the same time the family's famous emerald gets stolen. Newtington Emerald gets stolen, so she decides to disguise herself as a boy and track down and detect the emerald herself. So this is a really good fun short little adventure read where you have the main character is female and she is detecting and trying to find what happened to the emerald using her own initiative. So it is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend if you just want a short sweet read. Alright, so thank you for joining me for one of my Cloak and Dagger Christmas videos. I hope to get up a few more. I will be doing a little bit of a catch-up, Friday reads catch-up, to see where I'm going with Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I plan to read lots and lots and lots. So I hope you're having a wonderful day. Happy reading. So let me know all the mysteries you're currently reading, or a mystery that you would like to read, or your favourite lady detective in the comments down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye!